Hello and welcome, Meg, to the Eclectic AF podcast. For those who don't know, Meg and me go back about 22 years or so. We're both grew up down in Houston together, outside of Houston, Southwest side. And Meg has some really cool stuff that she's going to share with us today about a new project she's got going on. But just how have you been? How's life been going for you?
Good. I love that you call me Meg, by the way. The only other person that calls me that is my mother. So
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. And then thank you for having me as well. Everything's going great. I actually just got married this last April. Um, I've been going to school, I've been working and raising kids and honestly just trying to do it all. And so, there's a lot to be said for that and trying to find balance in your life and just making it all, mesh and blend well.
Yeah, I know we talked a little bit yesterday, just kind of in preparation for this, and we both kind of just reminisced on like where we used to be and where we are now, and how drastically different our lives turned out than what we thought we were going to be at right 20 years ago. For those who don't know, I did grow up in Houston, and I lived there until I was 29. And the reason I'm in Cincinnati right now is because I was going through a divorce. Me and my first wife were splitting up, and Meg, actually, I was on the phone. I was wild. So my ex was at a bar. We were at a bar with me, my ex, and her new thing. And I walked outside. I called Meg, and because she's always just kind of been one of my people that I talk to, and um, I just talked to her. And at the time, she was living in Hawaii. She went to school at University of Houston for it's hospitality, right? Hospitality management. So
It's hospitality,
yep,
yeah,
yep,
hospitality management.
yep.
And when I was 20, it was on my 27th birthday. I had, I think from when I was like 24 to 27, I had this dream. I went to Hawaii twice, and the moment that I landed the first time, I told myself, this is home and I have to live here. And I even
Thank
had some
God,
friends
Hawaii.
tell me that this is a pipe dream. I actually still remember the friend, but which is actually my best friends, told me, this is a pipe dream. And I did not think that at all. I was like, I am doing this. And it took me about 3 years to actually do it. So on my 27th birthday, I bought my one-way ticket. And I'm sure that a lot of family members thought I was insane. I actually still get asked to this day, why did you move there by yourself? And I'm like, yeah, I packed. Did you know anybody? Were you married? Were you in the military? Were you? And I'm like, no, I just did it. I knew at the time, I felt that, we both grew up in Texas, and I just felt like there was more out there in the world for me. And I'm actually, a very shy person, which you might even see throughout this podcast. I try to turn this extrovertness on, but I'm actually very introverted. And I knew that about myself, and I didn't like it. And so when I moved to Hawaii, I really tried to like push the boundaries of myself, whether it was the people that I met or the things that I did. And I think it, at the time, like it really helped shape the person who I am today. And we were talking yesterday, and I remembered that conversation. And it's crazy because a lot of things just like go out of your mind. That happens, it goes out of your mind. And I brought that up to you, and you were like, I remember that conversation
Very
too.
much so.
And I think that if I remember correctly, you were kind of you wanted to move to Ohio. You were thinking about it. And I said, just go. I said, just do it. And I've actually had another friend of ours, Sean, hello, Sean,
Yeah.
has asked me something similar recently. He was looking to move to a different state, and I said, just do it. And
I've been
so
trying
a
to get
lot of
out to
times I
Cincinnati
think,
for a
and
while.
when I think about myself, and when I think about what happened, and I moved from Hawaii to Connecticut to Florida back to Texas. Um, I thought it was a great adventure, and I was okay being alone in that adventure. And maybe that's where people kind of struggle a little bit. They're like, "Well, I don't know anybody there," and well, then go meet somebody. What I ended up doing when I first moved to Hawaii was like, okay, I got to meet some people. I started volunteering at the zoo, the Honolulu Zoo, And I met through one person. His name is Anthony. Hello, Anthony, if you ever watch this. I ended up meeting really, really great friends through him. And, I felt like I found my people, and there was a lot of wonderful, things that came out of that. And so I would encourage anybody that, it's a scary thing to do, but you have to have conviction at the same time, right? I was like, I'm going to do this, you know, pass or fail, I will figure it out. And I failed. I failed miserably. So if I were to talk a little bit about Hawaii, and anybody that knows anything about Hawaii, they don't like outsiders. And when you move there, I was like, Hawaii, tourism capitalist, tourism capital of the world. I have a hospitality degree. I'm good to go.
Yeah.
That's not what happened. Um, Very much the opposite happened. I went there, interview after interview after interview after interview, and they're just like, nope, we don't want you. You're from Texas. You're not from here. We don't accept you. And I actually, but it was a blessing, because what ended up happening was I had to ask myself, well, what do I want to do? And what do I want to do with my degree? What do I want to do with my future? And my answer was events. Like I loved events. I've put on events when I was in my early 20s just for friends. Even when I was in high school, like I would put on events. I remember specifically, like, we did like a St. Patrick's Day party at my house. I don't know if you were there, but I remember that. I was like decorating the whole house and things like that. So I ended up going down the events route, but I ended up going from the bottom, right? I became a banquet server. And, as time moved on, I didn't look at myself as like, oh my gosh, you have a degree and you're just a banquet server. No, what I ended up doing was I learned the operations of events and quickly started moving up that ladder, if you will, and ended up getting opportunities from it, and ended up, when I ended my events career in 2020, and we can get there later as to why. That's an easy one. That's COVID. Um, you know, I understood, I was a master of what I did, being able to bring together, hospitality, sales, service, and also understanding events like that, the work that goes into creating an event. A lot of people can sit in seats in catering. If any catering people are ever listening to this, they can sit in seats of catering, and they're like, we just share the message. We just tell people what to do. We tell the kitchen what to do. We tell banquets what to do. But I didn't think like that because I knew what they did. And so when I think back on it, I'm so grateful for the way that every chip fell. Even though at the time you could sit there and you'd be like, kind of, what am I doing? Like, I can't believe that this happened, or but then it's like, no, everything happens for a reason. And I couldn't be more grateful for the way those chips fell, because it led me to a place to be humble, like as a leader, when I became a leader in the events industry. And also it helped, with my clients, because I was able to figure out ways to like win business because I understood the operation side so well.
Yeah, when you understand from the ground up how a business operates and how in your case an event operates, you're probably in a much better space when you're speaking with clients, to because they're going to have questions about what it looks like when they're sitting down to eat dinner at their event, what
Yeah.
that's going to look like, right? So, and you have that intimate knowledge instead of just somebody that walked in and started directing people, instead of knowing what those people you're directing their actual roles are. So that's really great. But I love what you said. Like, I do agree. Like, Texas swallows people. I don't think people really understand. I know I've taken a few friends from Cincinnati down there, and it's just like they're just like, wait, we're in Texas. I was like, yeah. They're like, how much longer do we have to? So we're coming to pick up Dylan. I was like, oh, we've got 5 more hours to drive before we're in Houston, and so they're like, oh, and that's not even coming from Panhandle or West Texas. That's coming from like Arkansas, right? So Texarkana through there,
Wow.
and I always thought it was so funny how big it is. I drive like through 5 states in 16 hours to get there, and it really swallows you up. But I remember that conversation because I didn't really want to go. I mean, I had a son down there, but I was also kind of on the bricks, backed into a corner, and I did fortunately have somebody to bring me up here and stay with, which is my brother and his family, who we actually didn't come to Ohio. We went to northern Kentucky, but is basically just a suburb of Cincinnati, Ohio. So, but I came up here, and I think um, getting pushed out of that comfort zone and having that conversation with you about moving into a place of adventure, it not only changed just my location, but just the way I pictured everything. I love discovering new cities. I never really traveled much. When I was in Texas, it was like
Right.
if you want to
We
travel in
didn't.
Texas, it's you're going to somewhere else in Texas. You're
I
rarely
know.
ever going to
We
somewhere.
went to Galveston.
Yeah,
That's where we went.
which I mean, we went. I went there all. I was working basically on that southern coast, up and down for multiple jobs down there, and when I moved here, I mean, I was 5 hours from Pittsburgh, Detroit,
Oh,
Indianapolis, St. Louis. You know, I'm Louisville. All of these places are really close
yeah.
here, so it's really neat to have.
Culturally
Yeah.
different.
It's very different. In fact, it's so funny because like people vacation from here, they go to Gatlinburg. I had never heard of Gatlinburg until
Mm.
I moved up here, and everyone's like, "Oh man," or like the Carolinas. People vacationing out to the Carolinas is really popular here, and
Beautiful.
I was like, yeah, in Texas, I was always all of my dreams were West Coast. I never thought about going to West Coast or Bahamas. I never thought about going to the East
Like
for
yeah,
vacation.
South
So,
Carolina.
and I know you were.
But it also wasn't overnight. Like I
Yeah.
said, it was my 27th birthday. So if I were to back up further, and right now I'm encouraging my son, he's like, I want to stay in Texas when I go to college. And I said, please don't. Like, because when I was I didn't really want to go to college first, and now I'm sitting here with a master's degree and currently going to college. I did not want to go to college when I was 18. I did. I was pushed by my parents, and so what I did was I found the closest college to me, and it was an hour drive. It was Sam Houston State University, and I made it one semester, and I came back. I couldn't stand being away because that was this was our bubble, right? This is all we knew, and it's also, if you think about us, like back then, we didn't have, I mean, the internet. We weren't on, like, a Razor cell phone came out when we were juniors in high school, right? Things like that. We didn't have this access to this world. This was our world.
Yeah.
And so and when I think about it now, you have to push even harder to get out of that bubble because you have no idea what sits on the other side. And it actually took me years. I had applied at the University of Hawaii. I was accepted. I was like 21, I think. I did not go. I was too scared. There were many times where this urge existed, and I would apply. I would think about it. I would dream about it, but I would never follow through. And I think when I had turned 27 and I had been there twice, the first and the second I landed, I was like, I have to live here. I went back a year later thinking, like, looking through the lens of, like, I'm going to live here. Like, where am I going to live? And then it was another year after that that I actually did it. And so, when people would ask me years later, like, they always kind of looked up to this, and I couldn't ever, like, pinpoint why, but I think I can now because I think I can understand that it is hard to leave, your family, your bubble, what you know. But like you said, it is an adventure. You learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about other cultures. I'll tell you right now. So I moved to Connecticut about 2 or 3 years later after I moved to Hawaii. To I worked at a country club, and I'm in the Northeast now. And I was like, I really want a kolache. I went to Dunkin' Donuts, and I'm like, where's the kolaches? And I go to work, and I asked our executive chef, how come you don't have kolaches here? And he goes, what's a kolache? I said, what's a kolache? What are you talking about? They did, and they had no idea because that's what they do in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Donuts, Dunkin' Donuts is their thing, and Tim
Yeah.
Hortons or
Oh,
whatever
okay.
in the Northeast. And so again, but I loved it. I was like, this is wild. Like I would take the train to New York City all the time, and I was like, this is awesome. And I felt like you had the best conversations with people on trains. But if you go to somebody in the Northeast, they're like a train, you know? And I'm like, no, this is the greatest thing ever to not have to be driving somewhere, you know? And
Yeah.
that kind of adventure of just like, and it helps ground you as a person, especially when you have to, when you have to talk to a lot of different people and things like that. When I lived in Hawaii, I worked as a kayak tour guide at Turtle Bay, and I think I was 28 or 29, and I had figured out this riddle the sphinx sort of, and I was like, all you have to do is ask somebody three questions to get to common ground with them. Just ask them three questions. You will find that because what I had to do was basically, you're taking people from a resort, you're taking them to an offsite location, you're telling them to get in a boat, and you're telling them in a kayak, and then you're saying, trust me. And a lot of people don't know how to kayak, and so they would kind of freak out a little bit. And so I had to find a way to like break the ice, and I would use that. I ended up using that like in sales and things like that. I don't really use it now so much. My purpose a little behind the scenes. um but what I found in meeting all of these different people is that people really do have common ground. You can always find something to connect with somebody else on.
Yeah. Yeah, the kolache thing cracks me up because I when I moved to Ohio, I started working for a company up here called Tire Discounters, not Discount Tire, which they did eventually get up here, but Tire Discounters is a Cincinnati local brand that's expanded that my brother worked for, and so the general manager that I got, Enrique, shout out if you watch this. It was awesome, and he was from Texas. I think he was from San Antonio, but he was from Texas. The only spot in town that had kolaches, there was a kolache factory here that lasted for maybe 6 months after I moved here, and then it closed down because the shop that he put me at was right next to the kolache factory, and it's so funny because it's my biggest thing every time if I go. We talked about Sean a little bit earlier. If I go to Houston, and Sean a lot of times will pick me up when I fly in there, and the first thing he does is take me to a Shipley's Donuts. And I go to Columbus fairly often from here for work, and there's a guy from Katy, Texas that has I think it's called Republic Kolache or Kolache Republic that's up there. It's not the same. It's not as sweet of a dough, but it is still nice. And when I go camping, which I showed you, I've just been camping the past 2 weekends. I take foil, and I take like croissant dough from like the Pillsbury croissant dough,
Yeah.
and I take like a better cheddar or like a jalapenos and put it in there,
Nice.
and I do a campfire kolaches every time I go camping. So
I mean,
that's funny. The other thing I would say is, so one thing that I thought was always cool, and I don't think we talk about this a little bit today, but Hawaii, I always remember you had a huge love for a TV show that was shot and based out of Hawaii, Lost, and I remember,
oh my God.
yeah, I remember seeing
I
the
did.
photos,
I did.
yeah, of the going and seeing all the Dharma sites and stuff like that. I thought it
You're so sweet. I can't. You have such a good memory. I was like, what's you got to say like Hawaii 5-0, like, which is, oh my gosh. So like
yeah,
secretly I would have loved to like been an actress or something
yeah,
at some point. I swear to you, because on Hawaii there's not a lot of people, right?
yeah.
There's not a lot of people in Hawaii, and I went with my friend. And so one of my friends had told me, hey, they do a lot of casting calls in Hawaii. Go, to this building, and they'll, take your picture, whatever. I'm 28 at the time. They'll take your picture, whatever, and they'll put you in a system. And if they find a role for you, they'll let you know. So I take my friend, right? I'm like, hey, will you go with me? This is my guy friend, military, Navy, 12-year Navy, veteran guy friend. He goes with me, and I'm like, okay, we're here to take the picture. They take the picture of me, Kevin. Hello, Kevin. Then Kevin comes up, and then they immediately are like, "Are you available tomorrow to be on Hawaii 5 as a firefighter?" No.
That's awesome.
And but I, oh man. So right when I left Hawaii, I got the call. I was in Connecticut and I got the call.
Oh.
Hey, we want you to play a cousin on Hawaii 5-0 of somebody. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, that was my chance. So if anybody ever has like some type of dream to be like a D-list movie star,
Yeah.
my suggestion is go to Hawaii because slim pickings
It'll make
on
up.
the
It'll make
island.
up for the amount of money it costs to live there, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was the hardest thing is I had to work constantly. I
Yeah.
worked constantly. I worked every single day when I lived there. But what's kind of crazy is there's an energy there where I never was tired. I was always energetic, and I just, oh my god, I loved it. It was so beautiful. I encourage anybody to go there. Living there is very different. Like for the last year that I lived there, and I love telling this story that I lived in a converted carport. I lived in the back of somebody's carport in a room that was literally 9 by 6. I had to shower outside every day. I asked myself when I moved there, I'm like, can I be this Hawaii? Like, I didn't know if I could do it. Like,
That's
literally
very Hawaii.
outside where people,
Yeah.
and like yeah, it was like a twin bed, and then you had to like go outside of the room into this other room where like there was like a mini fridge. And what's crazy is people thought I was lucky
Yeah.
to live in this converted carport because it is very kind of like third world. Unless you're a millionaire,
Yeah.
you're living in the slums.
Yeah.
That's what it is. There's chickens everywhere. You're living in the slums. But there's also beauty in that because you spend most of your time outside. So I didn't care because I'm outside anyway. So,
Yeah. I want to go hiking
but
down there for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
you would love it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I haven't gotten down there. Quite honestly, it's because I hate taking planes over water. I'd rather take a boat. I'm not a fan of air flight.
It is
Maybe
a
it's because
brutal
I
flight.
watch.
There's been a couple times where I
Yeah.
had to squeeze a stranger's hand next to me as the wings are like
Yeah.
like going over like the turbulence of the Pacific Ocean. But
Yeah.
no,
That's awesome.
I ended up in the East Coast. And what's kind of crazy is Sean might remember this is when I first moved to Hawaii, I was like, I'm gonna write a book and I'm gonna call it The Dirt Road to Freedom. And I'm going to live here, and then I'm going to live in the East. I'm going to live in all four corners of the United States, and then I'm going to write about it.
Yeah.
And I that's when I first moved there, and I started writing the book. And I don't know if Nathan would remember this. One of our friends, Nathan, I actually told him that I started the book writing about him. Because I think he used to tell me all the time that he wanted to go on this like long walk, this like journey, this like walk
Yeah.
journey, a spiritual
He
journey.
dreamed about that a lot.
And yeah, maybe he still does. I hope he does. I hope he does it someday. But anyways, but what's weird is I'm like, I'm gonna write this book. I start the book, but then I stop the book. 2 years goes by. And what ended up happening, I moved to Connecticut. It was a happenstance move, right? I didn't seek it out. It was a happenstance move. And then what happened a year later? I moved to Florida. And so again, it was very happenstance. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, when I think back, I'm
Got
like,
three
man,
out of the
maybe I
four
should write that
corners.
book.
Yeah.
But I never made it to the West Coast. So
Yeah. Yeah. The Pacific Northwest is probably it's a vacation I've got in my head because I can go visit some family and friends out there. Actually, Nathan's brother's out in Idaho, so Adam. So yeah, I think that's so cool. I have only moved here to Cincinnati, and I fell in love with the place. So I'm more of a mountains than a beach kind of person, and I'm close enough to. I don't know if we'd call it mountains. They're very big hills, right? Though.
oh, I love that. Like
But there's
Appalachian style.
yeah, there's a lot of hiking and stuff to do out here. In fact, there's Red River Gorge down in Kentucky, which I'll be at either this weekend or a few weekends from now. I go camping. I mean, I've the 4 out of the next 5 weeks I'll be camping. So it's
So can I ask you, do you tent? Are you a tent camper?
so yeah. So I'm a tent or a hammock camper, depending on. But if I've got my kid, I tent. If I don't, I hammock. And I am
Wait, hold on. Did you say that you were a hammock camper?
yeah
Oh, you're
yeah
my idol. Oh my god, that's awesome.
yeah.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
I've
Good
got a
for
little,
you.
I've got a little thing that goes over the hammock, and it's like a bug net, really, and I just lay in the
Yeah.
hammock and sleep. It's way more comfortable than sleeping on the ground. As a guy my size, I get a lot of hip pain and back pain if I try to sleep on the ground too long. So
Well, you would probably turn your nose up to me because I own I go glamping.
yeah,
I
yeah,
own a teardrop trailer,
okay,
and honestly, so I bought it in 2019. Okay, I bought it in 2019, and the first place I took it was Garner State Park. If anybody in beautiful place in Texas, to me the best state park. I absolutely love it there. There's a river there, and um, yeah, I've been to so many state parks since, and it honestly wasn't until I was going to live in it. That was my goal, was to live in my camper. That did not happen because I ended up meeting my husband, and now there's kids and dogs and a house and all this stuff involved. And I will not get rid of my camper. I'm like, we will figure it out. We are sleeping in the camper. Um, but anyways, what I realized was, when we were younger, again to that bubble, we went to Galveston. I never went west. And with the first time, never really like floated the river or anything here. And the
oh, that's
first
so
time I
much
went to
fun.
Garner State Park or Canyon Lake or
Oh, Canyon Lake's great too.
just any of those areas in the hill country, I said, oh my God, why did I move?
Yeah,
This is so beautiful.
yeah,
Like it's amazing.
it's Texas is one of those places. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, but I've got a big. That's West Texas. That's the first mountain I hiked, right there. So
Oh, the Guadalupe.
it's the Guadalupe. It's El Capitan because we did Capitan before we did the Guadalupe Peak. But it's what I did do. My name is in a book in Guadalupe Peak. It was probably one of the better hikes that I've done. So it's funny you mentioned the teardrop because after this past weekend camping, I do a lot of tent camping with a group that I met through like a divorce group that I'm in, and we all a few of them have campers, and I just tent camp outside of their campers for the most part. But I started designing. I've got a little teardrop camper. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, I love
So I
it.
started. I mean, that's my next project right now is to build up this teardrop camper. So I just wanted enough space for me and my kid to be in, me
Oh,
and
I
both
love
my kids
that.
to be in, and then um, and it's just it's hard to find. I think they want like $35,000 for some of these teardrops, and they're pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could build it for cheaper. So I'm just that kind of person. My
Yeah.
what cracks me up though is like the going out west thing. I've got family out west. I think we talked the other day a little bit. Like I've got my sister, one of my sisters and one of my brothers is in Idaho. My other sister's in L.A. area, and but next year the reason I want to build this is because the goal is to go hit Glacier National Park, then go to Yellowstone, then go to Zion, then go to Sedona. Just a straight drop down, then swing back and pick up Dylan to take him back up for the summer. So I'm hoping.
Have you ever been to Arizona?
I have flown into Arizona and I've driven through Arizona, but when I drove through Arizona, it was me and my dad, and it was pitch black, and it was terrible because we took I-10 all the way out to California, and it was pitch black and terrifying. So I did. We drove
Oh,
through it for that time.
you're going to love Arizona. That was actually, when Brooke and I got married, um, that was one of the things we chatted about to do for our honeymoon was, I think it's called the Grand Circle. Look it up. And it's basically just hitting every spot, like,
Yeah.
Zion and Sedona. It even hits Las Vegas,
Yeah.
and like doing this grand circle, but it takes about 2 weeks. We
Yep.
ended up doing something else, but yeah, no, it's absolutely beautiful. We went there twice in a row a couple years ago for my birthday, and I absolutely love Arizona. I hope you do it, and yeah, you would have. It's just such a wonderful way to connect to nature and God. Actually, on my 36th birthday, we got up at like 3 a.m. and drove to the Grand Canyon to watch. That was what I wanted on my 36th
Yeah.
birthday. We drove to the Grand Canyon to watch the sunrise.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I love it. I mean, travel is just built into me. I think, if I could have, it's on my first episode when I interviewed myself. If I could have anybody's job, it would have been Anthony Bourdain's. That would be the one that I would want to go with. My, I think, and I want to get to Dockside here because we're running out of time. But the one thing that I saw, you mentioned you were a kayak tour person down for Turtle Bay, and so next year the goal is we have the Little Miami River here in the Miami, and we're looking like I've been watching a ton of videos of people kayak camping. So they'll kayak for
Oh,
however many hours, and then they'll set up camp, and then they'll kayak.
mhm.
So I've been addicted. I think next year is gonna have a kayak in my future. So, um, but
I hope
anyway,
you do. I think you would love it.
yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun. But so the main reason we got you on here today is because of Dockside Flippers, which is your fun kind of side project that you're really enjoying. And I want to hear more about that. Tell people first of all what it is, and then go into kind of what brought you to that and what you're looking to do with it.
Ooh, okay. And so that's a loaded question, but we'll get to it here. So where do I start with this? There's a couple different places I could start. Um, so a couple years ago, I applied to go back to school, and I applied to go to Texas A&M Galveston for their maritime studies program, and I was accepted. I actually cried when I got the acceptance letter. I didn't think I was going to be accepted, even though I had a master's degree in hospitality. This is a complete shift into like a science oriented school and a marine oriented school. Texas A&M Galveston is very much focused on a lot of different things, marine and vessels and things like that. So I was accepted into their program, and people would ask me, they're like, what, why? Like, okay, you went and you got your master's in 2018, and here we are in 2022, and like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I've always had this, passion for like, for for marine mammals. You could sometimes see it come out on my Facebook page, or just disagreements with SeaWorld, or just marine mammal captivity, or whatever you want to call it, right? And I was like, I want to start a nonprofit, but I don't know what it's going to be, and I want to explore, I like this topic, the topics of marine. So I'm going to go to this school and I'm going to figure it out. And so I started taking classes at the school. I think I'm in year number 3 now at the school. And last year, I'm in Port O'Connor. Port O'Connor is a small fishing town in Texas that we've been going to since 2006, right? So my family's been going there since 2006. We have a bay house there. And if you ever go to the DocksideFlippers site, I'm only on Facebook. If you ever go to the site, you'll see it on my cover photo. You can see this aerial view of where I'm filming. And there's always been dolphins. It's called a bulkhead. There's this bulkhead there, and there's always been dolphins at the bulkhead. And so I walked down the bulkhead a year ago on Memorial Day, and I took a clip of a dolphin. One clip. I was like, this is a badass clip, man. And so what I ended up doing was I threw it on Instagram to the Bad Bunny song or whatever. And I was like, and so what I was like, oh, the dolphin, it almost seems like it's moving to the clip of the music. Like, this is awesome. This is cool. And I did it again. And then I did it again. I did it again. But they were singular clips. And I'm sure my family thought I was just so silly, because I was like, this is awesome. I was like, I went out there, I took one single clip, and then I would say, find me a song that like embodies, right? That embodies this clip. And that's what I did. Then I think it was like a couple months later, and then that was like nothing. This is the infancy. This is the seed of Dockside Flippers.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there with my brother-in-law, and I actually initially had called it Bulkhead Flippers, but I love Star Wars. And that's why it's called Dockside Flippers. He was like, you should call it Dockside Flippers. And I was like, hell yeah, welcome to the dockside. I was like, that's awesome. That's what it's going to be. But about a year goes by, nothing really happens. Okay. About a year goes by. Some work is being done on the house that we have down there. So none of us were going down there. And um, in the meantime, what ended up happening was I started creating videos about my personal life. Brooke and I went to New York, and I created this what I think is a badass video of our New York vacation. We went with our kids to Florida. I created this really cute video. I wanted to find ways to to hold on to these memories in a different format of like photos, right? So I would take all of these footages, and I would throw it into a it's called Splice. I would throw it into Splice, and I would put music to it. So then once the house was done, I went back to Port O'Connor, which was this last 4th of July, and I was like, you know what? I'm actually a pretty good pro at Splice now. What if that's actually from a show my son watches. Have you ever watched Stinky and Dirty? They're always like, what if? I was like, what don't ever watch it. Okay, what if stuck in your head forever.
What
Um,
if? Yeah.
what if I did the same concept here? What if I took the clips of the dolphins and synced them to music? And so I did it, right? And I did. The first song I did was Toby Keith. I think it's the Red, White, and Blue, some type of like American song. It was 4th of July, and people loved it. They were like, "Oh man, this is awesome." I was like, "Isn't that pretty cool?" And I was like, "Let me keep going." And I was like, and so then the next thing I did was I did AI. I used AI.
Yeah.
We talked about AI a little bit. By the way, I actually used to be relatively against AI maybe a year ago, and I'm like, AI silly, ChatGPT silly. Why would anybody ever use that? No, absolutely not. AI is incredible. It is incredible. It helps you so much on so many different levels. And so I got onto, I think, Microsoft Copilot, and I said, give me a logo for Dockside Flippers. No, it needs to have it needs to be more embody more fun. No, it needs to be more colorful. No, it needs to be more this. And by creating this image, literally just a logo, and if Sean was on here, I think he would really back me up on this. And what I do outside of this is I am a marketing director for a company. Is just these images, just these words mean so much, and I'm like, this is it. This is the logo. It's very bright. It's very fun. And I'm like, there's my brand. There's my brand of Dockside Flippers. What am I going to make the content about, right? And honestly, Zach, what I wanted to do, and what I'm very conscientious of this, is I wanted to create a platform where you're sharing something that's positive,
Yeah.
sharing something in a different way that's positive. So when you go to, a lot of Port O'Connor's a fishing town. So, a lot of times, well, I mean, sort of. I mean, people are, sharing their catches and things like that. And there are a lot of dolphins in that area. And so I'm like, okay, what if I presented, I call it edutainment. Okay. It's a
Yeah.
blend of entertainment and education, right? So what if I took this entertainment, right? And then blended it with education. I feel like if I were to do something like that, I could start creating a connection. Well, what does that mean? What are you going to do with that? How are you going to make money? Blah, blah, blah. That's not the point here. The point isn't to, I'm not trying to capitalize on anything. It's fun for me.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. It's therapeutic when I go down there. I feel like I've created these connections with these animals already in the last 3 months that live there, and I love it. I love going there on this bulkhead that's probably 3 feet wide and 200 yards long, and just filming. And then I'll take that film, and I could sit here and I could just scroll through reels, or I could go create my own,
Yeah.
right? Create my own a platform that my goal is to share um like a fun side of the internet. And I think people have been very receptive to it. Like, they seem to really like it, which I love.
Yeah, I think it's great.
And and I thank you. And I've been building layers to it. Actually, so this morning I shared my favorite video with you,
I'll put it up.
and
I'll
that
put a
was
link to it too. I'll have to
it's Jefferson Airplane, White Rabbit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what the song is. And my husband, when I picked out the song, he's like, I don't know, Megan. So I actually got that song from one of my favorite movies is The Matrix, and they recently redid, right? They redid The Matrix, and it
Yeah.
came out I think on freaking Valentine's Day or something a
Oh
couple
boy,
years
does
ago.
it? Yeah.
The trailer to that movie is the song.
Yeah.
And I happened to randomly hear it, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna make a Dockside Flippers song or Flippers video to that song." And he's like, "I don't know, Megan, that's a little too trippy, it's a little too groovy or whatever." And people loved that video, and it's
Yeah.
I hope you got to watch it. I think it's
I did.
awesome.
I had to
And
watch it
so
on silent because I was at a meeting, but I did watch it. It's a really cool video. I didn't get a chance to listen to it though.
thank
Yeah.
you. And I'm always capitalizing on like, okay, how can I better present this and present that? And one of the craziest things, and I wanted to mention it today, was one of the craziest things is I spend, this good amount of time going down there and taking all these clips, figuring out how to montage them, syncing them to music where it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And recently, because I'm creating layers of content, I started posting just like raw clips. Like, here's a raw clip of something that of my experience, and people love it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I should stop with the videos because I'm spending all this time like your videos are too long. And I'm like, it's art. You need to understand it's art. No, you're spending all this time with these videos, but I post this raw clip and they love it. But it's okay,
I think there's a
which
good
I love.
mix. You can do a good mix of both, and it'll pay off. So.
Yeah. And I think the goal, I've tried to connect with a lot of people. I've made friends overseas through this.
Well, that's awesome.
Is, if you say, what's your goal here? I really think it is, we have, not to get too crazy about the internet or anything, but there's so many like negative things on the internet. I know that at work that my job is, the external voice of our company. And I very much think in terms of logic.
Yeah.
Like I will never put the word no, not, doesn't, what, I won't put negative words in anything that I say. Everything is positive. And I try to, or I do, I apply the same thing to Dockside Flippers. Like just our world needs to spread more positivity. And I also think needs to spread more elements of art. So what you're doing is wonderful, right? You're like, well, nobody else does this. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Let's start creating spaces where people are being expressive about things that they care about, right? And like exploring that. You don't have to copy somebody else.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good idea, and other people agreed with me. Maybe some people don't like care about dolphins, whatever, but people can appreciate art, and people do. You're finding people. I'm getting followers every day. People every day are like, "Oh my god, this is wonderful. This is really cool what you're doing."
Yeah.
And so it's almost like again having that conviction, because I can sit here with a friend or a coworker and maybe they're like, I don't get it." Kind of like Hawaii, right? We're coming full circle here. I don't understand. What are you talking about? You want to move to Hawaii?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You want to go make videos about dolphins? And but the thing is, there's people out there that want to and appreciate see that type of content.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of my goal is just to keep going. I've gotten pretty or I continue to become involved in just the community of Port O'Connor. It's
Yeah.
kind of crazy. Like I'll go into places and people recognize me and I'm like rarely even in my videos. This has only been going on since July.
Yeah.
I'm on that bulkhead and people who drive by in in their boats and they're super interested. What are you doing? Where do you post this? Like,
Yeah.
and what's most interesting, Zach, and I think you would find this interesting is that you would sit here and you'd think, oh, dolphins, Lisa Frank, whatever. Like that's such a girly thing. And
I
it's
love
actually,
dolphins.
and it's men.
Yeah.
It's always men. It's not because men are on the boats. The women are too.
Yeah.
Men are the ones that are like, oh, that's so cool. Like appreciating the
Yeah.
dolphins, right? Oh, that's really cool. Good for you, or whatever. And I think that I'm creating a connection and creating a community. And it's just really a community of appreciation.
Yeah.
How can we create appreciation around animals? Well, you spend the time to understand them, to connect with them, to share them. And then in that way, in my mind, you can better connect people to the world around you,
Yeah.
right?
100%. I love what you're doing. I think that one of the coolest things about our world is that we can kind of create a platform out of nothing these days, right? The one positive thing that social media does, besides keeping friends connected over long distances, and introducing, like you said, you have overseas people, but I think one of the things that's super cool is we can create this positive environment where you're having fun, you're creating art, you're putting this in front of people to brighten up their day. But then at the
Yes.
same time, you're developing awareness because there is a lot of tumultuous kind of events that take place around marine mammals, right? We hear about dolphins and nets and people fishing for things they shouldn't be, and all of these activities, especially around whales and stuff like that too. But it now gives you this platform to create awareness for something that people may not have known was going on. So I think that's super cool. I know, for me, like, and you say it was like Lisa Frank, the girl. Lisa, I remember being in the '90s. I loved dolphins when I was a kid. I think I had a ring at one point that had like three dolphins rapping, and I think my mom or dad or somebody said like, "Oh, that's it's kind of girly." I was like, "I don't care. Dolphins are cool," and and I had it.
They are.
Yeah, and
They're very
they
interesting. It's
really
my
are
first
like,
tattoo. It's my first
yeah,
tattoo was a dolphin.
they're so smart and
When I was eight, a week after I turned 18, I got a tattoo on my ankle of a dolphin. It's still there. Um,
I
I
remember,
was gonna
yeah,
say, you mentioned there is a dark side to this, right?
yeah,
There's a dark side to the oceans or just marine mammals or captivity and all this stuff. And so I don't want to say I was pressured. I was pressured by a local group to maybe alter my message a little bit, right?
yeah,
A little bit of pressure to alter my message a little bit. Well, if you're going to do something like this, then you need to share um what happens to dolphins when, a boat strike or fishing nets or fishing lines or whatever. You need to share this negative and people need to be aware of this.
yeah,
And I was like, oh, and I ended up saying no.
yeah.
I
It's
do
not your
have, I'll
platform.
be very candid. I have footage on my phone and it broke my heart. I was actually crying on the bulkhead of a dolphin that was, hit by a boat, a calf. And I thought about it, what do I do here? And my response was, I'll never share this on my platform.
Yeah,
And it's not to hide it. I'm not trying to hide anything. It's not my purpose. My purpose is not to sit here and say, even though my personal beliefs might say something else, my purpose is to spread joy. That is my purpose. So if I cannot share doom and gloom,
right,
if my purpose is to share joy, my goal is to connect people through joy,
right,
right? And I'm not here to get on any type of soapbox
yeah.
and say you can't do this or you
There,
can't do that.
there are
You kind
plenty
of
of
said it
groups doing
earlier.
it already.
As
Yeah,
these people are going by in these boats, right? They're already becoming aware.
yeah,
The connection's there. If I sit there on a platform and I get a little radical, nobody's going to listen to what I have to
yeah.
say.
You
They
get
don't
shut down
care.
pretty quick too.
They're going to say this girl's a nut job. But if I sit there and I'm just like, this is awesome over and over and over again, then maybe the next time somebody drives, because I think it's probably, I'm looking at it right now, it's probably like 100 yards across. Maybe next time somebody drives, out of this, it's called the sanctuary, out of the sanctuary, then maybe they'll be a little bit more, conscientious of what's beneath them in the waters.
right.
And then I have done my job.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. I think bringing the joy is so important. You can raise awareness without sharing the doom of everything. I think just
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying. Like you're just pointing out, hey, these guys are in the water and they're awesome. So just leave them alone, But I think that's great. It's like we don't share pictures of children getting hit by cars, even though it happens. But we know that we don't want to we want to watch out for children when we're driving, right? So Yeah, I think what you're doing is incredible. Unfortunately, we do have to wrap up, but if you want, go ahead and I'll impose a bunch of images and video like of the Dockside Flippers page and things like that on here. But go ahead and just like leave your handles and where people can find you and reach you on your social medias, so they have a way to connect.
Right. So, so like I said earlier, I am only on Facebook. That is for a reason. People do ask me. It's not because I'm pushing 40. But it kind of is at the same time.
Where when it
I
was
actually
created.
started on I actually started on Instagram, but the beautiful thing about Facebook, guys, is that there's community in Facebook, right? You have groups, you have community groups. I don't know how to do any of that on Instagram. So while my Instagram handle does exist, you will only see me on Facebook. And if I had to, give any advice, if anybody cared to hear my advice, if I had to give any advice to anybody that maybe has an idea to do something, like just do it. Like just have fun, especially as you get older. You know, we spend our lives, wrapped around work, wrapped in our kids, which is fine and great, wrapped around responsibilities. And, we live in a world where most parents, both of us work, and it's a lot of pressure, and and especially as you get older. And I actually found this as, doing this as a release, in a sense, and something that brought me peace. And I could only wish that for anybody else. And even if, it's something, I don't want to say silly, silly's not the right word, but if it's something that's never been done before, like just do it. It's the same thing with Hawaii. Nobody could understand how, like, you moved there by yourself. Like, what are you talking about? You weren't in the military, you weren't married, you didn't know, you didn't have any friends. I'm like, no, like that's what I did. And I would champion anybody, including you, right? What you're doing right now. And I think that's wonderful. And I think that you have such a large connection of people. And I can't wait to hear more of your podcast, because I know some of the people that you know. And I think they are all wonderful
Yeah.
people, and I would love to hear, their thoughts and their, intellectual perspective on certain things, and like even what they're doing, what they think about the world around us. And I honestly think that a lot of those people would say very similar things when it comes to just peace, peace, peace and love, man.
Yeah.
Just spread the joy,
Very much so. Yeah. So yeah, I love what you're saying. I also would say even if something has been done before and it brings you joy, keep just do it anyway, right? If
Yeah.
it brings joy to the people around you, so. But yeah, that's it. I unfortunately I have to go hop on another meeting, but it was so great talking to you, Meg, and well, I'm sure we'll be in touch here after this. But I appreciate you so much coming on here and talking about all the awesome adventures you've been on in your life. So thank you so much.
Thank you for making it fun for me. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you later. Have a good night.
All right. Thank
Bye.
you. Enjoy your day.
You too. Bye.